My name is Emily Hanlon, and I'm the 12th grade Parent Education Committee Chair. And we'd like to thank you for joining us for the college process follow-up and senior essentials presentation. Before I introduce our counseling department panel, I just would like to give you a friendly reminder to please join and donate the PFA and donate to our annual appeal. Hopefully you've seen this postcard or one of the emails that came through highlighting all the projects and events that are supported by that. Our goal is to raise $75,000 by the end of September, which is quickly approaching. So thank you for your consideration, and thank you to everyone who's already donated. We're excited to hear from our counseling department panel this morning. Kelly DiMaggio will discuss the senior internship program. Lisa Granite, our registrar, will talk about the high school transcripts and how to request and send them. And Sue Carroll and Lindsay Godfrey will answer any last-minute questions you have about the whole process, applications, recommendations, and any post-high school plans, paying for college gap years, and non-college options. So thanks again, and Kelly, take aim here.
Okay, I always have to lower the microphone. Good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to take a few minutes just to kind of introduce the senior internship program to you so you know what's to come, which kind of starts off in December. I don't like to introduce it to your seniors yet because I know that they are all in the bulk of their college application process, and I just don't want to overwhelm them with one more thing. So I will present this information to them in the beginning of December. So the program is really designed to give our students a hands-on experience into professional work setting where they are developing and polishing soft skills, they're learning new skills, they're making connections and hopefully building some networks. Through the internship, hopefully they're not only walking away with a great reference and added experience to their resume, but gaining insight into really what's needed for future jobs and internships to really thrive. So the process is really designed to mirror the steps that they're going to take in future jobs and internships applications. So meeting deadlines, so applying and meeting our internship senior deadline. They will be writing short little essays, going through an interview process, and then they will receive training to prepare them for their internships. Additionally, in the training, we help them develop a resume, and they also will be creating a LinkedIn account. So it's a really great opportunity for them to kind of learn this entire process in a structured and supportive environment. So there's two types of internships. So the first internship is placed by the school, and that's where they will go through our school's database of internships that we have. They'll rank the internships, and then they'll be matched based on their top choices and really what their interests are and what aligns best with the company. And then the self-design is where they design their own internship based on the criteria that's set by the school. So that criteria is it must be within a 30-mile radius of the school. It cannot be, a supervisor cannot be a family member. The supervisor must be 21 years or older. They cannot intern for themselves, which I know would be so fun. We've had students try to do that before. And they cannot currently work there, and also it can't be on our school's database. So I released our school's list of internships in the beginning of December. So if they are unsure of if it's on the school's database, starting now until it's released, they can always reach out to me via email, stop in my office, and I can let them know if the site that they're thinking about self-designing, if it's on the list, but also if they're speaking to the site. Oftentimes the site will say, oh, I'm actually already on the list, or I can remove, so the sites also normally know as well. Students that are interested in self-designing, I know I just said that I don't want students to start thinking about internships yet, but it is kind of a good time for them to start thinking about and maybe possibly reaching out to where if they would like to self-design, because these things take time. Sometimes they fall through. Sites, sometimes they have to go through HR, which can take, a process. So sometimes if they wait until the last minute or they wait until December and now maybe supervisors are going away for a holiday break and the applications are due in January, it's just a little more pressure for them. So now is a good time for them to start thinking and possibly securing those. I will say when they fill out the self-design application, make sure that they have actually spoken to the site and been approved by the site, because when they click submit, I get their application, because they do all have to be approved by the senior internship committee, but also they have to be approved by the site. So they're putting in their site's, contact information with their email and the description of what they'll be doing. When they click submit, it also goes to the site, because I need them to read what they put and approve it as well. So I would hate for a site to be like, okay, well, we talked about it a while ago, but we never actually officially said, yes, we can do this. So they just must make sure when they click submit that it has already been approved by the site. Just some general information, the applications will open December 3rd and they close January 7th. So that's about 5 weeks. Keep in mind, 2-ish of the weeks are during their winter break. On December 3rd, when the application opens, I will be presenting to seniors during their building block. So it's kind of a nice way for me it's fresh in their head, all of the information's there. I walk them through the application, which the application is very simple and it's very user-friendly. And then, I can obviously answer any questions that they may have during that presentation. So the internships will run from May 19th, so the week after APs end, to June 9th. The end date is pending snow days. So if there's no snow days, it'll be done on the 9th. There are 80 internship hours, typically 5 hours a day. During school hours. However, arrangements can be made to be done outside of school hours. Students are receiving academic credit. So to receive the academic credit during the internship, they are doing journal entries and they're doing time logs. All students will have a faculty or staff mentor assigned to them. So the mentors are reading their journals, they're doing a site visit, and they're also kind of their go-to person if they're having any issues, concerns, want to bounce off ideas off of them. So they are definitely very supported during their internship. I will send all of this information in an email to you at the end of November. It's also on our website, so if you go on the high school website and just search senior internship, it will come up. I also left a flyer on the table by the coffee over here, which has a few QR codes. So one is if you just want the general information, it will bring you there. If you want information about the self-design, will bring you to the information about that. And then lastly, if you're looking to host an intern, I am currently in the process of recruiting internship sites. So if you have a family member, your own company, someone you know that might be interested, or you can convince them to be interested, please spread the word. We have, just over 300 seniors that will probably be participating. Typically about 98% of our seniors participate. And so just want to get the word out there. I know I have taken interns, and it's definitely a win-win, because I always love my interns. They bring such fresh perspective. They always work on a project that I just don't have the time to get to. So spread the word, help me out, thank you. And I look forward to working with all your seniors. Sue and I get the pleasure of interviewing all of them, and we're always just so blown away at how put together and thoughtful and mature they all are with us and with adults. I know I have kids of my own, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, they're horrible with me, but I will say, we are just really impressed by your kids. So good job to you all. Does anyone have any quick questions before I leave? No? All right. Thank you. Have a good day. See ya.
Thanks, Kelly. Your kids are so lucky to have that program. It's very awesome. Can you imagine when you were in high school if you had something like that? This is really, we're serving your pleasure today. We'll give you a quick overview of what we said 2 weeks ago, just to refresh your memories and jog any questions you have. But that is the purpose of this meeting, is to answer any lingering questions or concerns you might have about the process and the role of the school counseling department interfacing with your children during that process. So without a transcript, there is no process. So Lisa's going to kick it off and talk about transcript and requesting a transcript.
Morning. So this is the form that your children will be filling out. Oh, it's up there. Okay, good. It's fillable, so I asked them to please type into it because sometimes I cannot read their handwriting and I don't want to have any errors. So I asked them if they could type into it, save it to their desktop, and email it to me. It's a very easy process. We've really streamlined it now since the beginning, right, Sue?
Yeah.
I asked them not to screenshot it. And the reason behind that is I cannot print it. When it screenshots and it has all the black background, it will not print on our printers here. So that's why I asked them to actually send it to me as a PDF attachment. If they are applying early decision, which is the top box, we have an early decision form. Again, everything is typable. Same thing, have them fill it out, email it to me. And if they are applying to colleges that are not on the Common App, we ask them to fill out the FERPA waiver. And that also can be sent to us. If they're applying Common App, it's done through the Common App, the FERPA waiver, but some students do not apply through Common App. So we need to have this form in order to release any records to any schools. The counselors ask for 3 to 4 weeks leeway to write their recommendations. So when the forms come to me and I check them out, I give them to the counselor. Counselor will have a meeting with your child, the senior appointment, and at that time, we'll write the recommendation. When it's all done, will give me back the forms to process, and they get processed immediately. And Naviance has made it pretty easily now to send everything out and to track everything as well. There are some schools, international schools, I believe, that we still have to mail to, which is fine. But it seems more and more are taking online submissions. What else do I want to say?
How long have you been doing this?
This is my 19th year. Yeah, and we've come a long way.
Yeah. Let me just say that your inclination perhaps might be that when your student in their portal from the University of Wisconsin, it says, have not received transcript yet, your inclination might be to call up the counselor or Lisa and be irate. Lisa's a helper, no need to be irate. You have to be patient in this process. Just because we send it doesn't mean the college has downloaded it. So this is a time for your student to interact with the admissions department to follow up any questions or concerns they might have, your student. But there is lag time, so just be aware of that, between when Lisa hits send with everything that she's sending, the school profile, the recommendation,
Counselor forms.
the counselor form,
Transcript.
and the transcript, and when the college, especially if it's a large university. You know, University of Michigan had 100,000 applications. It's going to take a moment to download this stuff.
And they're also not going to actually download it until your child hits submit on their application. Because what happens, which we found out now, is when I hit submit, it goes into like cyberspace. It sits out there in the cloud. And once your child fills out the Common App and hits it, it merges. It's amazing, but it does. And that's when I will get like a notice I can see in the submission. I'll get that it's actually delivered. Sometimes it may just sit there and say submitted because the school hasn't done anything or your child hasn't actually applied yet. So, also, I don't want you to have to worry about if you see, I had a parent yesterday was very concerned. They must have logged on to their child's account and they saw, I know, which I ask you to have them do it. I just feel that they're going to college next year and you're not going to be there with them. And I'm guilty of this because I did a lot of this for my children when they grow up. Let them own this because this gives them a sense of actually the process of what they have
And
to
also,
do, what's
you could
expected.
screw it up very easily, so,
So I had a parent yesterday that said, it says no request on Naviance. Well, there is a thing that says no transcript. We don't use that feature in Naviance. So it wasn't that the child didn't do, they did what they were supposed to do. It's just that that feature we chose, there are parts of Naviance that we can use and not, we chose not to use that. So she was very upset, and I tried to explain, no, he's good, everything is there, and so I screenshotted, sent it to her and said, look, it was delivered. He did what he was supposed to do. So I don't want you to, you may look at something and think that, it wasn't done, but yet your child may know that we're not using that feature, or, so. But if you have questions, you can always email me, you can call me anytime.
thank you. Yeah.
So this is my third child, first boy.
I'm sorry. We do marry them, though, They do grow up.
So he's like super confident that he's on top of this. But I feel like he needs a second check. What's the most efficient way for us not to create a lot of extra work for you guys, but to make sure that he's doing things like giving you this form and that he's on track?
Well, I think counselors wouldn't mind a,
Hello. If you're concerned, you can always email your counselor, and we can let you know if we've received the transcript request form. We can let you know if we've met with your student. Your student hopefully is sharing with you when their senior meeting is, but if they're not sharing that with you, your counselor can definitely let you know when we're going to be meeting. The meeting is just between student and counselor. We can send you a follow-up email afterwards. If you have questions about things, you can always reach out. That's probably the best method, so as not to stress your child out at home any more than is necessary. We are happy to do the stressing here. Yeah.
Question on this. So this is the official transcript request form. The counselor letters, are those triggered by this as well?
Yeah, so basically what happens is once we receive the transcript request form, we also need to have the senior meeting with our student before we can be writing a letter, because we're going over the profile. So we do need the student profile, and we need to discuss it with the student before we can actually write the letter. It's really important. We've met with our students last year. We met during the junior year. We got lots of information from them. We had a chance to discuss their activities and their accomplishments. But things may have changed over the summer, happened over the summer. They may have more insight. We also really appreciate the parent profile, which can also be found on this same page. This is the senior year forms page that's on the school counseling website on the New Canaan High School website. You can find any of the forms there. They were sent to you this summer, but again, if you cannot find them, this is where to find them. The parent profile and the student profile are both really helpful for us in writing the letter of recommendation in addition to our meetings with your students. So
can I interrupt for 1 sec? Just from a parent's point of view, when I was sitting in your seats, I had my husband write the profile also. I made a copy and we both wrote it. It was amazing how different they both were. My husband's was very about all of her sort of business talents, and mine was much more squishy. So that's a good idea you have different points of view about your child that you both love. You can share that information if you both fill out that form. I happened to save the forms, and then when my daughter figured out where she was going, we gave her the forms and she read what we said about her, which was, pretty awesome. So just don't worry. It doesn't have to be just from one point of view.
yeah, no, absolutely not. And the sooner that you guys can send this to us, the better, just so that we have time to really reflect on it. I also sometimes will go over this, to some extent with my students, with the students in their meeting, just to kind of say like, oh, this, your mom said X, Y, Z. Can you tell me more about that? Because you didn't mention it on your profile. Sometimes they don't like to brag about themselves. Sometimes they forget things about themselves. So it can be really helpful for that to have them come from you. But yes, the transcript request form is a helpful way to be on the way to submitting and for us to submit our letter of recommendation. But there are other steps in between as well.
A super basic question.
Yeah.
Of this list, the only thing on here that should be generating from the parents is that parent questionnaire or letter, correct? else
Correct.
they should be on top of? I'm right there with her with the.
They should be on top of them, yes. We try to also make sure in our meetings that we are reminding them about these things. So I know in all of my meetings, I've been reminding students who are applying early decision, you know, in addition to indicating it on the Common App, you also have to fill out the early decision form and get that to Mrs. Granite. You know, oh, you're applying to McGill in Canada, great school, but it's not on the Common App, so you do need to fill out that FERPA waiver. So I am going over that with my students, and I'm positive all of the other counselors are doing the same.
In fact, the counselors met during building blocks with their seniors yesterday
Yesterday.
and reiterated and went around kid to kid to kid. One of the building blocks happens to be in my office, and answered any questions.
Yeah.
The kids, I know that there's doubt out there, but they were motoring along. So boys too.
If
So-
you really are nervous and unsure, you can reach out to me, because sometimes the counselors are really busy and they're in meetings all day with your students. I have no problems. Shoot me an email. Can you just double check for me? It's not a big deal for me to check for you. To give you that, you know, worry, to make you worry less, it's fine.
Just a really quick technical question, for schools that don't have ED but have EA, is it the same form?
Yeah, it just go,
Well, you don't
it
need
goes
to-
on the bottom, from here. You can all see it, from here down, and then in this box, it says EA or regular, rolling, whatever.
But you
Just
don't-
the top box is ED, so this way, it's really for us to know that, you know,
But
it
you
brings
don't
it
need to
current.
complete the restrictive early, like if it's restrictive early action, for example, like a Princeton, you don't need to complete the early decision form. I've gotten that question a couple of times. Just indicate it on the transcript request form. Hi.
I'm just wondering if this school profile has been finalized and.
It has.
Yeah.
So, say the transcript is not sent, it's not downloaded, do schools normally reach out to the student and ask that they submit any missing materials, or do
So-
they just move on?
No, they generally won't reach out, right, yeah, so what will happen is that when students submit their applications, they will get an email from the school with a portal, a link to a portal. It will be their specific portal that will show their application status, and then it is up to the students to be checking that portal to see what's missing. That is where it will be indicated, because colleges have so many students, they can't really individually reach out to say, like, hey, we're still missing your whatever. Most of them won't. Some of the very small schools. But generally speaking, making sure they're checking their portal is important. What I've advised my students to do is to create a folder within their email inbox that's just for portals, where they can put all the links to the portals, because I think sometimes it can get confusing and things can get lost, and that way at least they always know where those links are and they can always get back to them and make sure they're checking them. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Oh, one more. Go ahead.
Oh.
After they have their senior appointment, where should I expect them to be in the process?
Every student is in a different place after their senior appointment. It really depends on the student and how much work they've done ahead of time versus how much work they still need to do. So I have students that are a little bit all over the board. A lot of my students, honestly, have been showing up pretty well into the process at this point, but the kids who schedule the earliest senior meetings are usually the ones who've done a lot over the summer. But I have plenty of students who will show up and say, I'm still working on these essays, I'm still working on these supplements, can you help me with this or that? And it's totally fine. What you wanna make sure of is that if they have an early deadline, that they're kind of aware of, you know, when they come to make a meeting with Mrs. Pocha, they've been asked to tell her what their first deadline is, and we are trying to have meetings with them a month out, so then we then have enough time for them to take care of X, Y, and Z. And also, in addition to the senior meeting, students can have as many meetings as they want with their counselor, so they can schedule 10 other meetings afterwards if they want to go over things. I know students will share their essays and supplements with me on Google Doc, and I will give feedback, you know, within 24 hours, even if we're not meeting again for a couple of days. And then also, we had the senior building block yesterday. We're having a third one in October to, again, answer questions, review anything. So they have lots of access to us, but they truly are all in very different places after their senior meeting. It depends on the kid entirely. I do try to give my kids a list of to-do items after the senior meeting based on whatever it was our conversation was about. Yeah.
Recommended cadence to check the portal. So let's say the applications go out, like, you don't want them checking like every day, but like, what would you say, how often should they check back?
So it may, first of all, take a few days for them to even get the email about the portal. Again, like as Sue and Lisa were saying, sometimes the processing of things on the college side takes a little bit of time, so don't panic. Also check spam folders, because sometimes they go to spam folders. And then I would say, like, checking once a week is probably sufficient. As you get closer to the deadline, maybe checking every couple of days just to make sure nothing else has popped up. But generally speaking, everything, is going to get there eventually. So I would say once a week is sufficient.
Agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
This may be a dumb question, but I know some schools don't seem to require a counselor letter. So let's say a student submits, but they really want to use their counselor letter, and they're just going off a teacher letter. Do the schools wait for the counselor letter, or do they just
No, if they don't allow a counselor letter, they will not read a counselor letter.
Oh, so they don't even read it?
Yeah, no, if they don't require it, or it'll either say like allowed, required, not allowed. Usually whatever recommendations they're asking for are the ones they're definitely going to read. It doesn't mean that they can't submit additional if they want to, but generally speaking, the admission readers have thousands and thousands of students they're reading for, and they can only read a certain number of applications.
And to some extent, this whole process is about following directions. It's something as simple as that. So if a school says we don't take recommendations, then they don't take recommendations. The Common App is a member organization. Colleges have little widgets on their side of the desk where they say, oh, we're not going to do that. Oh, we will do that. Oh, resumes? No resumes. And so just because one school, UMass, might do it, Dartmouth won't. So you have to be or your student has to be aware of what the college will allow. But, don't think, I wouldn't try to game the system. If they say they're not taking it, then they're not taking it. But you're going to share some information about recommendations about if they only take one, how to choose.
I am, eventually. Any other questions before college visits? Yep.
What I saw was it says teacher/counselor, so they'll take or. So it's not like, so I guess I'm just assuming they'll take the teacher, whatever submitted first, they would consider.
So
I think
I would have your student go to their counselor to look at that, because usually, like for the UCAS system, for example, which is the UK system, for any kids who are applying to the UK schools, they will take one recommendation. That child can choose if it's counselor, they can choose if it's teacher, they can make a choice. A lot of the time, though, they'll either take one counselor and one teacher or more than one teacher, or if they just want a teacher, they'll indicate that. If it's counselor/teacher, I would have your student go to the counselor and look at that specifically with them. Yeah, well, yeah. Uh-huh, yeah.
I was under the impression that like Ms. Granite just sent all the letters of recommendation with the packet to the school.
Yes.
It does.
But it sounds like the child is also choosing like on the
Yeah.
Common App for
Yeah,
that
so I
school.
have a screen that shows that. Do you want me to go to that screen now?
Yeah, sure.
So you can see here, this is what it looks like for your child. And so basically they'll select a teacher at the top. There's a drop-down list that has all of the teachers that are in the school. If somebody is new and isn't there, for example, just let us know and we'll make sure to add them. And then the schools, like this child, had American and Villanova on their list. As you can see, American is 1 required recommendation, 3 allowed, whereas Villanova only has 1 allowed. So what the students will do is they'll request both their teachers, but they'll check off which of the schools they want each of their teachers to send letters to. So it is going all through Lisa because Lisa sends everything at the same time, but the child has already said, I want Miss Brown's letter to go to American, but I also want, Mr. Reed's letter to go to American because 3 are allowed, whereas Villanova, only 1's allowed, so Miss Brown is the one that's gonna go there, not Mr. Reed. So they do all of that ahead of time. Again, if students are having trouble with it, they can come to their counselors. I've had students come to me and I've shown them kind of how to navigate that. So they're choosing ahead of time, and then when Ms. Granite hits send, what they've chosen goes to the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help? Okay.
Yes, sir?
It's my 3rd kid, but my first daughter, so I'm in great shape.
Bravo, sir.
So, the question, Lisa, for you, some schools, maybe UNC being one, has an October 15th PA deadline. Do you need any advance notice of that?
Just the counselors need that, Yep. Counselors are great about deadlines, even as busy as they are, and they are busy from morning till they leave. And at night, they are fantastic about not missing deadlines.
And it's not the only school. There's a bunch of them now with October 15th deadlines, so we are definitely on top of that. Yep.
So do the kids see the recommendations letters?
No, so when the students, that's right. So when the students sign their FERPA waiver, they essentially are waiving their rights to see their recommendation letters in addition to allowing us to send their educational records to schools. So the idea is they should be trusting whichever teachers they are choosing to write their letters, that they are going to be writing strong letters for them and going off of that. Oftentimes what students will do is, let's say they're going to be studying, I don't know, engineering. They might choose their science teacher over their English teacher for that school because that's more related to, the engineering they're going to be studying. Sometimes they choose based on who they feel can tell a better story about them or who they have a stronger relationship with, but really they should have good relationships and feel confident that both of their teachers are writing strong letters for them.
And I have to say, the faculty here are awesome, and you know that they're writing these letters on their own time. They're not taking class time to do that. If a teacher was not comfortable writing for your child, they would say, you know what, you probably should find someone else.
Yep. Yes.
Is there a preference for them to be juniors, like the teachers they had junior year, or is it okay to go back to a teacher you had freshman year or sophomore year?
It should generally be teachers that they had junior years. There are sometimes exceptions to that rule, but it really should be a conversation they're having with their counselor. And usually then it would be, maybe I had them sophomore year, but they're also been my advisor in debate club, and they have me in this, and they're my coach in this, so they see me in all of these different ways, and they would speak best to me. But a lot of times, it is junior year teachers because, frankly, the rigor of the classwork is so much harder, and the teachers get to know them as an older student closer to college. So that's usually why they want junior year, but there can here and there be exceptions, but should be a conversation they're having with their counselor.
What's the most reliable source to find out how many letters the colleges take? Because this feels like they're far along in the process, but if they're still figuring out.
This is a very reliable source. Naviance is a very reliable source.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can certainly go to every college website, but a more efficient use of time would just be here. Naviance has it up to date at this point, so once they add the school to their list in Naviance, it will be here. If they have not added the school to their list in Naviance yet and they want to look at it, certainly the website is fine, and you can always go to the websites, but this is a more efficient use of time.
And if you have an outside teacher recommendation, how is number one answered?
So that goes through Common Application. That wouldn't go through Naviance. Naviance is only for people who are employed
In the building.
here in the building. And again, your student should talk to their counselor, and the counselor can show them through Common App how to request that recommendation.
So if Villanova, for example, had an outside letter allowed, it would show there?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, no, it's not an outside letter. It's
No.
just more than one letter.
Yeah, but it wouldn't show in Naviance.
The Common App tells you.
Right.
The Common App tells you, and so say I work at the toy store, and I would like the toy store person to write me a letter. So what I'm going to do on the Common App, if the school allows it, I'm going to check the box, yes, I have an outside recommender. I'm going to put in that person's personal email account. The Common App sends that person a note and says, Susan Carroll has said that you will write a letter. Here are the instructions. That's how it works.
But that's not going to reflect here.
Not
just so
going to
you know.
reflect. This
You're
is
not
just for in the
going to see it here.
building.
But the one here will indicate how many recommenders in total, whether it's inside or outside, can be sent. But I guess the specifics of it are on Common App.
Right, but if you use that for Villanova, don't confuse it. Don't think that you can send one letter to Villanova through Naviance and then have an outside
Right, it's
recommender.
one
If they want one, they only
entirely.
want one.
Right.
And I have to say, through every visit, every rep has said this to the kids, and the kids ask questions about it, and, they believe it or not, they're on top of it. They're understanding it. So we're going to move on. Speaking of college visits, they're going really well. We have, yeah, sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. We have 4-day week this week, and we have 20 colleges visiting. Your kids are great. They ask great questions. They're polite and listen well, and they're just a pleasure to be around. So I echo Kelly Damazio's applause to you, because they really are terrific. And they seem very aware specifically of what they're interested in about each college, which is where they should be at this point in the process. Something that's come up repeatedly has been scores, when to send scores. So we're just going to touch base with that one more time.
So many of your students have taken the ACT or the SAT at this point. I hope all of them have taken it at this point, if they're going to be taking it. We always suggest students take it at least once, if not more than once. Most students take it 2 to 3 times on average. And so deciding when to send the score has gotten a little bit more complicated as colleges have changed from just test optional and test required to test encouraged and test allowed and all kinds of things. I'm hoping at some point they will all use the same verbiage. It has not happened yet. So that's part of what you kind of need to pay attention to, your students need to pay attention to on the school websites, is whether they are test required, optional, test blind, etc. And if they are test optional, a good way to determine whether to send scores is to look at the admitted student profile on the website. Also on Naviance, they appear there as well. And looking at the mid 50% of students who were admitted last year or in the last few years, if your student score is within or above the mid 50% of students that were admitted, it's generally a good idea to submit those scores. If they're below the mid 50%, it's generally not a good idea to submit those scores. And again, that's a conversation that your students can certainly have with the counselor if they're not sure, but that's usually a pretty good indicator. I will say, Bucknell, for example, sent out an email to us today, kind of just letting us know about what their class had looked like. And I believe they said that 44% applied test optional, and of the students who enrolled at Bucknell, it was a 60% that had initially applied or enrolled, had applied test optional. So it certainly is something that a lot of schools are still paying attention to in terms of, do tests really indicate anything about what's going forward? But then other schools have gone back to test required. Ohio State, University of Miami are 2 that our kids always apply to. They're test required again. So we don't entirely know how every school is going to manage it. It should be pretty solidified now for this year. I don't think any schools are going to make any additional changes for this year. But if it is test optional, that's a good way to kind of indicate and decide whether to send or not.
And it's for any school that's test optional that has visited us thus far, it's been under 50% that have sent scores.
Mm-hmm.
So the scores look high, they're inflated, but only less than 50% of kids are sending them.
And the ones who are sending them are sending the highest scores,
Yeah.
so it all
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
Any questions about scores? Yeah.
Can you explain how the process of the test scores going to the college works, and specifically when you have an early decision but you're still taking your SAT this next weekend, like how that?
And your student would note on the Common App a test date in the future, like November. And the school knows to wait for them.
And in terms of sending them, your students are responsible for sending their own test scores from College Board or the ACT website directly. We don't own their scores, so we're not allowed to send them, whereas we do own their transcripts, so we can send those. If students have questions about how to select scores, like super scoring and that kind of stuff, I have had students come to me for questions about that. It is fairly self-explanatory, but can be a little bit confusing on the website. So if anybody needs help with that, going to their counselor can definitely show them how to do that.
And will they get to see their score before it gets sent, or for the later one, or does it just?
It depends how late they're taking it, right?
The October.
Probably not. It depends how fast SAT gets their
And
scores
it depends
back.
on the school, too.
Right.
In other words, there are schools that have this do no harm policy. So if they see the score and they go, well, that's below our norm, we're not going to even look at it. It depends on I don't think you should, of all the things to worry about.
I'm not worried.
Yeah, okay.
To know if that's gonna make it on time. That was the only question.
Yeah, yes.
They will make it on
Yes. The turnaround for SATs are very fast now, very fast. Under 10 days.
Mhm.
So if you submit your score through the Common App, how quickly do you have to have College Board or ACT send the score to the school?
So I always recommend having scores sent 3 to 4 weeks before the first deadline, if possible. Obviously, if you don't have the scores yet, you can't do that, but if you do have them, making sure that you give time just in case there's a lag, just in case there's a glitch on either side, anything like that, 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time is a good idea.
Yeah.
Is it the same process for AP scores?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a couple of more things. So, the common application, this is one of the common application pages. Hopefully your students have shown you their common application. If not, feel free to ask them to sit down with you and check it out. But this is just kind of showing you that there are a number of different things that have to be filled out and completed. The Common App essay is that one big essay that students write that goes to every Common App school. I think most of them are well into working on that at this point. But then also some schools, not all, but many, have these short answer supplementary questions. And so as you can see there, the arrow is pointing to optional essay. Some schools will say, here's an optional essay you can write. Is it optional? It is not optional. That is what we always tell our students. It's important to do the most, not the least. There are very few situations where an optional essay is actually optional. There is an additional information section on the Common Application that replaced what was for a long time the COVID question, which was like, how did COVID affect you? Now it's additional information, and it will list there all the different circumstances that you might want to write about for additional information. That is the only thing that is truly optional. If none of those things apply to you or your student, they should not be writing anything there. If they have a question about that or they think that they might have something to write, again, the counselor is a great person to discuss that with. Otherwise, no essays are actually optional.
Bob Darkin and Kristen Brown did a supplemental workshop last week, very well attended here in the Wagner Room. So as Emily said and made her request about paying your dues for the PFA, that was a PFA-funded event, so thank you very much. But if you want to keep seeing things like that that are so helpful to your students, paying your dues is probably a good idea.
Also, as I mentioned earlier, students can share their essays and supplements with their counselor, and we all give feedback pretty quickly on those. But the Writing Center is also available daily. It is not available during the first part of the block. That's when they have classes. But part 2, point 2 of every single block, the whole day, English teachers are stationed in the Writing Center wanting to help. Not just with essays for college, although that is a lot of what's happening right now, but they are there. So please use them. They're wonderful. Use us. We're great. We have a lot of experience with this. So, having your child, although you are all lovely, wonderful people and very supportive parents, sometimes having somebody other than you look at your child's essay is a good idea, just to get an additional outside perspective. So we're available, and the Writing Center is available as well. Just to give you a sense of another piece of their application, this is their activities list. Again, they're working on this. We can help them with this. The Writing Center can help them with this. It's just another piece of the Common App that sometimes students get caught up on a little bit because it's very short blurbs. But again, you have lots of support and lots of people who can help you with this. And I know you all have kids who are involved in many, many things. They do have to choose 10, but we can help them narrow those down as well.
And if you don't have 10, you
That's
don't
okay
have to
too.
make up 10. Like, just because you ran track one meet freshman year, maybe that doesn't need to be on the activities list. But if you have a job, if you babysit your younger siblings at home, it's great to show leadership on a list, but if a college has 3,000 kids, they're not all leaders. Somebody's got to follow. So membership any place is a good thing. So the list becomes important. If you belong to slobs, don't say slobs. Spell things out. NCL, colleges may not, if it's a rep that's new to us, will not understand that. So spell it out.
And then just a quick financial aid shout out. So for those of you who are applying for financial aid or considering applying for financial aid, there is some information about it on the Common App. But on October 9th, we have a wonderful financial aid advisor coming to speak with all of you at 7 o'clock right here, I believe, in the Wagner Room. And so I highly recommend coming to that talk if you have any interest in financial aid whatsoever. You might not think that it makes sense for you or that you qualify, but there's so much information out there and so many different caveats and different things that are helpful to know. And Bill is really wonderful
Yeah, he's a great
covering all the different
Great
pieces.
presenter. Sometimes you think you shouldn't fill out the FAFSA, which, by the way, believe it or not, the government pulled it off, and it's live a week early. That's shocking, but it's live right now, the FAFSA. When our daughter was in college, we didn't fill it out. We were paying full freight for Holy Cross, and she came to us 3 months in and said, I've been offered this position as a research assistant in the history department. I'd love to take it, but you never filled out the FAFSA, and all research jobs are through the financial aid office. So she had a missed opportunity there. So even if you think it doesn't hurt to fill it out. So private colleges will use a document which asks for different information called the CSS profile. Between the two documents, they get a pretty good idea of your financial possibilities. And of course, there's tons of merit aid out there. I invite you to all think about that. Also, there's some great websites. Meritaid.com is a good one. FastWeb is a really good one. Your student can spend 20 minutes answering a questionnaire online, and then they will send applicable scholarship information and applications to them. The only problem is your student has to stay on top of those and write a bunch more essays, which they would be cranky about right now, I think.
And as you can see, there's also a scholarship tab on the Common App where I've had students already be applying for scholarships.
It's amazing that Common App has come such a long way. It really has. Yeah.
Is there a resource that, I don't know, the school provides to the kids for local scholarships? Like, I know my husband works for an organization that gives out scholarships. There's tons of organizations locally.
Yeah, we have a slot on Naviance that has scholarships. Some of the scholarships are not really local. The most local that we have to talk about would be the ones through New Canaan High School, which would be the Sapienza Scholarship through the New Canaan Community Foundation, the Kiwanis Scholarship, and the New Canaan Scholarship Foundation. Your students are emailed information from Mr. Egan in January about those. And most of them require the CSS profile. I just want to, while there's a quiet lull, I just want to give a plug out to this book, Dream School by Jeffrey Salingo. I feel like I'm having an affair with Mr. Salingo because I've watched every webinar
He truly has.
that he has produced. But he's on to something here. He will come to New Canaan High School on December 4th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium to speak to our parents and I hope your students. But his whole thing is return on investment, and that perhaps elite should not be the reason why we apply to a college, that there are so many other things to consider. If you follow the College and Career Center on Instagram, I've highlighted every time a college mentioned as a dream school. For example, this week it would be University of Denver is visiting. Michigan State just visited. But he's saying to you, if you're paying $110,000 a year for Johns Hopkins, why wouldn't you go to Texas A&M? Pay a fraction of that, get better research opportunities, and not be clawing your way into the juggernaut of super smart kids. Because at the end of the day, you're getting hired on soft skills, not the name of the college. So I highly recommend this book. He's smart, and it's a little data heavy, but it's got a lot of really, really good information. And again, he'll be joining us, thanks to the PFA again, on December 4th. We have a few more minutes for questions if there are any left unanswered. Yeah.
Yeah, is there a list for, where we can go look at the colleges that are visiting you outside of Navient so parents can see without student body?
Yes, sir. On the New Canaan High School school counseling page,
Okay.
there's, I've shared the college visit calendar right there.
Just real quick, one on the, if your child is gonna apply to a school that asks for only one letter, there's never a time where you would choose an outside letter over a school letter, they don't accept that, right?
No.
But they can pick if it's a counselor or teacher, or is it just teacher first?
If they're asking for one letter, it's almost always going to be the teacher, and the counselor usually is going to be required as well.
Got it, okay.
AP scores, some schools seem to insist on getting the report from.
Yeah, MIT now, Stanford, you must send your AP scores.
Some you can self-report and they can
That's right.
on that.
Yep.
And some people say, we don't want to see them, we don't even look at them.
Correct.
But if it's self-reporting, should we send them anyways, or?
Only the
say
ones that
self-report?
require them, or the ones that, I mean, I wouldn't send them unless the schools are asking for them specifically, like a Stanford, like an MIT. Generally speaking, what those scores are going to be used for is credit on the other end. So oftentimes when the student is admitted to and enrolls, puts tuition deposit down for a school, they will then ask for the official report to grant credit, if they're going to grant credit. Otherwise, I don't feel a need to send them aside from the self-reporting.
I agree.
So you're saying it's not a factor in that?
Well, I mean, you're going to self-report. If you got 5, if you took 5 APs and you got 5s on all of them, and they can see on your transcript what APs you took. So if you're only reporting the 1, I got world history, I got a 5. But they saw 7 other, so maybe you have to think about it a little bit. Certainly, if you're applying to University of Texas, a very AP-happy school, mandatory SAT and ACT to send there, but you can get a lot of credit. So if you get accepted there and you're going to matriculate there, you could go in as a sophomore if you got a 4 or better on all your APs. So it depends on the school.
So if a college is coming to New Canaan, but it's booked, your kid's going to be applying to that college?
They can just come and talk to me. I mean, I've never said no to a kid. But the reason why I close them off is because, you know what, deadlines mean something, especially in this process. But they can still come.
And we should always ask teacher permission ahead of time, not after the fact. I had a student come to me yesterday who said that they missed a quiz and they weren't able to make it up, and I said, well, did you ask permission ahead of time to come to the visit? No. Okay, well, next time make sure that you do that. Luckily, the lowest 2 quiz grades are being dropped in that class, so not a concern, but make sure your kids are asking permission ahead of time.
Yeah, the week of October 14th, I think we're seeing a college every 5 minutes. So the teachers, I'm sure will be sick of me by the end of that week, but there's a lot of colleges coming because there's college fairs. Same with this week, there's big college fairs around.
But they do have the right to say no, and if they say no, there's also something called a regret form that's available that students can fill out ahead of the visit and give to Mrs. Carroll. It's in the office, or it's actually on the forms on the website as well. Just saying, I wanted to attend, I wasn't able to attend, but I'm interested in your school, here's my form. As long as they give it to Mrs. Carroll ahead of the visit, she will give that to the rep as well.
And that is very helpful for schools that track demonstrated interest. For schools that don't, they probably go to Starbucks after the visit, have a coffee, and throw those away. But it makes the kids feel good that we've given them something, so. Yeah.
In the comment of the additional information section, if that information is going to be included in the counselor letter, if she's going to include that information in the counselor letter, does it make sense just to have the kid mention it in that on the comment app, or just leave it up to the counselor's letter?
I would say it kind of depends. So I would say how much of an impact it had on the student. If it's a one line going in the counselor letter and it really hasn't been like a major thing that had a major impact on the student's life, like that could be a discussion between the counselor and the student whether to include it or not. If it is something that had a major impact and they want to write a little something and show that to their counselor and kind of make sure that it makes sense and is appropriate, I think it could be a good place to put it.
So I know you mentioned during the college visits, our kids are well-mannered and sweet, which we'd expect But are they asking questions? Are you getting feedback like?
Yeah, they're asking really good, good questions.
I doubt my kid is, but.
Yeah, no, they ask about, how hard is it to get research? Can you do it as a freshman? They'll ask, I'm interested in fraternities or sororities, but I don't want it to run the school. Can you tell me about that? They go to New Canaan High School. They're well-educated kids, and they're articulate and funny, and so they're a pleasure to be around. I'm being really sincere, honest.
Thanks.
Yep. Anything else?
So, through this process, you're saying that the order is basically send off the SAT scores, send off the Common App, teachers will get an email, and they will send off their reference. And then is that it, or there's another step?
Yeah, it's a ballet. It's amazing. It all ends up, as Lisa said, in the cloud. It all gets matched together, and then admissions people sit and read.
Except the only thing is you do have to check those portals, because sometimes for certain majors or something like that, once they submit in the portal, it might say, oh, we actually have this one more essay we want you to write, or, oh, we have now that based on this, we have this scholarship we want you to apply for, or whatever. So checking those portals, there might be some additional things that need to get taken care of. The majority of it you've covered. So always check the portals.
If they, I'm sure they all have like a plan of phase 1, phase 2 of what they're applying to. If something is like regular decision, but it's on their list of schools they're applying to, are you still sending those transcripts out early?
No.
Well, it depends on what it is. It's really, well, go ahead.
So, technically, Naviance has this thing now where basically once their transcript is in there, if school's on their list and it's been sent, the transcript will go to the school, but it will only have for early action and early decision schools. All it will have on it is their freshman, sophomore, junior year grades, their senior year classes. So while it might end up in a school that's on their regular decision list, like an electronic file might be started for them at that school, they won't look at it until a student submits an application in January. And we will send first semester grades to all regular decision schools and all ED2 schools once we have them, which again won't be until after the students apply to those schools. First quarter grades aren't sent to schools ever unless a school specifically requests them, and then the student would say to Mrs. Granite, there's like a form to fill out that they need first quarter grades. So yes, it might be in that like cyberspace cloud somewhere, but it's not going really to any school until the student submits. Does that?
Yeah.
work for you?
Yeah. It's not an application until your child has applied.
Correct.
The first quarter grades can be available for October.
No.
So for that transcript form, if there's a school that they're not really sure if they're going to apply to, should they put it on?
So they can do as many transcript forms as they want. So they can do the first 7 schools that they definitely know they're applying to, and then if they decide to apply to 5 more or 3 more or whatever, they can submit an additional transcript request form. Or they can put it on there in the first place if they want. It's not going to harm them either way, but if they make a decision later, that there's additional forms that can be sent in.
But the thing is, they have to remember what they did. We send out a survey at the end of each year. You can't graduate if you don't fill out the survey. And it's helpful if you have younger kids because it's what we base our statistics on. And sometimes they'll look and they'll say, I applied to that school? They don't even remember that was because they got in early action someplace else and never actually sent. So then they have to put in, did not apply.
Right.
So, so it's helpful if they have a full idea of what's going on. Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's your recommendation, like, as long as you're following like the 2 to 3 reaches, 4 to 5 targets, like 10 to 12 schools, is that your?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how kids who apply to 20 schools and then they get into 7, how do you decide? Like, I just think, I know covering your bases, I get all that, I get anxiety, I understand all that, but it's $65 an application. It just seems silly.
Plus, they all have supplementary, or a lot of them have supplementary essays, especially
Yeah, it's
lots
a
of schools
lot.
that kids apply to here that are very selective can have 5 supplements, and then they're doing that on top of all of their schoolwork, and you really want to make sure everything is going in the best form possible and not just rushed off at midnight one night. So 10 to 12 is a really solid number.
Is there anything else? Well, thanks for your time. I always say at these things, don't worry so much about where they end up in college. Worry about what meat they choose for life. This is just a small decision, which I know seems very big, and it certainly is very expensive. But this is just one of many that they're going to make in their lifetime, and you guys are doing a great job.
And utilize us, email us, ask us questions. Like, we're all here for you and your students, so make good use of us.
Thank you.